Hello and welcome to the Father and Son Formula One podcast. I must apologise for the late running of this one. We've had a general election here in the UK, which is actually where the race is this weekend. But for once, Father and Son are in the same place. So,
Yep.
Here is Toby.
Makes it much easier for me to mix all the audio and stuff.
So, although we are actually in the middle of a free practice 2 at the British Grand Prix, we're recording this, we're going to talk about the Austrian. Well, I'm going to say race weekend because we had a sprint and obviously sprint quali and race. So quite a lot happened.
It was busy because there was no part of it was really that boring, was it?
I didn't. Did you see free practice 1?
I don't think so. I think maybe a F2 driver was getting a run out. We just get it up on the website. No, I don't think so. Just Verstappen fastest, Piastri second, which is pretty expected. Oh, that's only the one practice as well.
Yeah, that was it. That was what I remember of the actual sprint itself. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like all the action happened in like the first 5 laps or so.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then things kind of... I mean, it seems weird in a sprint that's... Oh, that's right, they had a fake start, didn't they? Because there were some... photographers over the barriers or something.
Yeah, well, they shouldn't have
one. So it was 1 lap shorter than the 23 I think it was meant to be.
Yeah.
And it still seemed to be a tyre management race.
Yeah, they were just sort of conserving tyres at the end and not overtaking each other.
And like there was quite a few scraps early on in the sprint, but like by lap 5 or 6 they were just like... And I mean, we said this pretty much every podcast. I think Pirelli need more durable tyres, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, there have been tracks where they've been complaining that they go off in Sector 3 if they push hard in Sectors 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And to have a sprint race, it should be fast and exciting and hectic. And it is until 6 laps when they then just kind of rein it in and go, oh, tyre management, let's tiptoe around. It's a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it's almost like Monaco wasn't a one-off. It was just it was the state of things pushed to the extreme.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It was the extreme version of what has been happening anyway.
Yeah, which is just track position is important and tyres are more important than, like, exciting racing.
It kind of always surprises me, and we see this most weekends, that the strategy guys nearly always seem to come out with this idea where they say, yeah, let's give ourselves a weird strategy, but then in the last 10 or 15 laps we'll be on super new fresh soft tyres, and even if we're down in 6th we'll be able to fight our way through up to the end.
Yeah.
And with the even whatever they do with the outwash and the inwash and the DRS, it still seems really hard to actually overtake.
Yeah, it never actually works. I think also the field is just much closer than it was, because you remember, like, back in the 15, 16, 17, if one of the top 6 drivers was at the back, you'd expect him within half the race to be back in the top 6.
Yeah.
Like, he would just scythe through the field, and now...
And the same in 22, 23 with the Red Bulls.
Well, with Verstappen anyway, yeah.
Well, yeah.
And now Perez is not getting past a Haas for 6th place. The others aren't really... Like, if Norris was then, like, 15th, I don't think he would get back to the points that quickly. Leclerc in the actual race ended up, like, last, didn't he? And he only got back to 11th.
Yeah, that was weird because... I'm kind of going around in a bit of a tangent here.
Yeah.
How did qualifying go anyway?
Yeah, let's park that for a second. So the sprint was boring. Qualifying was... Oh, yeah, Verstappen just monstered everybody. Just a classic, like, 4/10 on the field.
Yeah, but then, I mean, I'm at a bit of a funny angle to your screen. How much was there between, like, 2nd and 7th, which would be...
Oh, well, 3/10 between 2nd and 5th. And actually, 7th. From Norris down to Piastri, 4.7 to 5.0.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a great spread there, is there?
And then there's another gap back to Perez and the Hasses.
Although, actually, we've been, like, slating Perez for weeks now, haven't we?
Yeah, years.
To be fair, he came up in 8th, which, you know, if you go by the kind of Formula 1 or Formula 1.5, realistically, Red Bull, Ferrari, not necessarily in this order, McLaren and Mercedes, are the top 4 big teams. And he's actually got himself up at the back end of that group, but gone are the days where he was qualifying like 16th or something.
Yeah, he did admittedly get through to Q3.
Yeah,
He didn't get out qualified by Logan Sargent, which is impressive anyway.
Well, it's better than it has been.
Yeah.
Quite a lot happened that I don't think we were shown at the start of the race.
The very start.
Yeah, I mean, I think... Who did Leclerc bump into?
Oh, God, I don't remember. Was it Mercedes?
No, I think...
Let me just quickly get the highlights up.
From memory, I think Hamilton tangled with Sainz. Does that make sense on the starting grid? I'm funny.
Yeah, 4th and 5th they started.
Yeah, he was like losing 0.3 or 0.4 a lap.
Who?
Lewis. There's actually, I've seen a photo of a hole in his side pod.
Yeah, he had big damage, but which is why he ended up 4th and not 1st, basically.
But actually, I mean, props to him.
Yeah.
You know, he started
5th.
and he finished 4th. And okay, 2 guys dropped out ahead of him.
Yeah, so he lost out to Piastri basically because Piastri had a really good race. Yeah, well,
he had a lap time that was due to go 2nd on the grid.
Yeah, I think so.
Or 3rd. I think it was 3rd behind Norris, and the lap time got deleted.
Just looking at the highlights.
I'm going to talk a bit while you're looking at that.
Oh, it was Piastri tagged Leclerc.
Yeah, that makes sense. While Toby's seeing what happened, the weird thing about Austria is you've had this the track limits question. Apparently last time out, I haven't got the exact number, but over 1,200 laps were deleted due to track limits. Now, over 1,200 laps were deleted due to track limits. No, I think, no, there were 23...
There were 1,200 track limit violations.
And 83 time laps were deleted.
Yeah.
Which is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be, if you count, was that across the whole weekend or just the race?
The whole weekend, yeah.
Even the race is 70 laps and there's 20 drivers, so there's only 1,400 odd laps in the race.
Yeah, plus you've probably got a good few hundred fast qualifying laps and so on.
Yeah, so it's got to be more than half of all the laps done across the weekend were deleted, basically.
So what they did 2 things actually. They repainted the track.
Yeah.
So the lower parts of the curbs were matte black. Then they had the white line which denotes track limits. And then they put a blue line. And they did this at other tracks because they found that when the stewards are watching the video, it's really easy to see when the wheel has left the white line because a little sliver of blue turns up.
Yeah.
And it's a clear visual indication. And the other controversial thing they did was 2 metres out from that white line, they put a mini gravel trap. So
was that controversial? I think most fans were kind of in favour of it. I think
the fans were. I don't think the drivers were too.
Well, no, of course the drivers weren't. But I think it's what they should have done because they can obviously obey track limits somewhere like Monaco. It's just they're just pushing their luck basically in places like Austria.
I mean, yes, they're racing drivers. Their entire job is to find the limit and absolutely push onto it, especially in qualifying. And if they don't respect the fact that the race is defined as a lap of a track, and the track is defined by solid white lines, then...
I've said it's like professional misses in snooker, which is kind of worked under the assumption that a snooker player can hit whatever they want to because they're that good. I think you should assume that an F1 driver, barring any mechanical or other nonsense, should be able to keep the car within the white lines as part of their job, and if they don't, they're doing it on purpose.
I mean, we're kind of assuming these are the 20 best drivers on Earth. Fundamentally.
I don't know, 18 plus some others maybe.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's the... Okay, let's say maybe they're in the top 100, all of them.
Yeah,
because you've got like IndyCar as a top level, World Rally Championship, World Endurance.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe a couple of hundred, because we went out to Le Mans, there were like 162 on the track.
Yeah.
But still, out of 7-8 billion people on Earth.
Yeah, a couple hundred maximum who can actually control an F1 car.
To the level of precision that's needed lap after lap.
So they're in that group.
Interestingly, some of the drivers who were within track limits did complain as well. I hadn't thought about this. Because if one driver ahead of you misses slightly, okay, they hit the gravel trap, they slow down. But they kick gravel and dust onto the track, and normally onto the track, on the racing line, right at the point where you're doing your peak braking, your peak turning, everything's...
Most downforce is active, yeah.
Yeah, everything's absolutely as hard as you can make it, and then all of a sudden they run across somebody else's gravel and dust.
That was a problem in one of those corners, like turn 7 or something, I think, towards the end. That swooping left-hander before the final complex.
I think they delayed one...
qualifying session,
yeah, I think Q3 was delayed because they went out to brush the track, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, fair enough.
Anyway, the race.
Yes, so the race starts.
Piastri tagged Leclerc and I think gave him a puncture and front wing damage.
Yeah, I think Leclerc came in early. Which, did that not happen? In Canada, he also had problems early on.
Yeah.
So he's had a really bad bit of luck recently. After he used up all his good luck at home, I think.
Yeah. How many pit stops is it on there? Did Leclerc have?
Pit stop summary. So we can see. So yeah, Leclerc had a pit stop on lap 1.
About 5 or 6.
So there's Leclerc. Then Leclerc second on lap 16,
which was really shocking. So I think they put him onto hards, didn't they?
Yeah, but the hards were not good, I don't think. Then he had his third on lap 33. Then he had his fourth on lap 51. So yeah, he actually did a 4-stop strategy.
Which, like I said in the kind of preamble, that never works. Track position
anymore.
is king.
Yeah, and the tyres degrade too much.
Piastri, who very, very nearly started in third, was down in 7th and got wrapped around Lewis. Although I don't think I actually remember seeing that.
That was Piastri and Leclerc got together. Hamilton and Sainz.
Hamilton and Sainz, yeah.
They sort of touched wheels into turn 3.
Yeah.
Which turn 3 is a proper weird corner because it's sort of goes down and then up on the inside, and it's very tight and uphill. It's a proper...
Which of Sainz's wheels hit his side pod?
I think one of his left ones.
I'm wondering if Lewis was a bit ahead of Carlos or a bit behind. Because that'll be...
and then one of the Red Bulls looks like he pushed... Yeah, so Piastri was fighting with Perez, who pushed him onto the gravel as well. So he got kind of... Okay, yeah, Sainz is on the inside of turn 3. Lewis is ahead. It's Sainz's front left tags Lewis's rear right tyre.
Or side pod, actually. There's a hole in the side pod.
That might have been then, it might have been somewhere else. That's Piastri and Perez going wheel to wheel, and Perez does that a lot. He did it to Leclerc a few years ago. He pushes him onto the gravel.
And nobody ever seems to notice, or...
They did, I think. Last time it happened, they gave him a few 5-second penalties.
Okay.
But I think first lap, they tend to be a bit more lenient.
Yeah, it's a lot of hard racing on the first lap. I mean, I spoke to my brother because we've got the Sky subscription to watch it live. And I was on the phone to my brother who watches the Channel 4 summary. And he actually had a really good summary of his own because he was like, well, the beginning was really exciting.
Yeah.
And then we kind of settled down into a kind of middle phase that was tyre management.
Yeah.
And just pit stop strategy. But for all the strategy and all the wise heads and computers they've got, nothing much actually changed.
Yeah, it was very sort of equilibrated with Verstappen, then Norris, then I guess it would be Russell. But I think
Russell actually drove a strong race in that middle section to keep hold of third.
Yeah, so... There was some fighting between Hamilton and Russell. Then there was... this is Sainz getting past Hamilton later. Just swooped straight past him. That's not where the damage happened.
No, I think it was already damaged at that point.
So yeah, the first sort of 10 laps were quite exciting. I imagine they're going to skip forward quite a lot in the YouTube highlights.
Yeah. Actually, really interestingly, I've seen an interview with Toto about his 2 drivers. Toto Wolff, head of Mercedes. And he said, I've still got a really good relationship with Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
We knew when we gave him a short-term contract it was possible he would jump. He's nearing the end of his career, and every driver at the end of their career, this is actually literally quite word for word, every driver at the end of their career wants to put on red overalls with a yellow badge with a black prancing horse on it.
Yeah.
He said the only problem he had was that it was kind of dropped on him. He would have liked a week or so to talk to the sponsors and the stakeholders and smooth down all the big money men who, were relying on the Lewis Hamilton effect. But apart from that, and also he said, to come back to the point, that he was really impressed with the fight between Lewis Hamilton and Russell. It was firm, it was hard, it was tough racing.
They're very clean, I think.
Yeah, clean, that's the word.
I don't actually think they've ever... There was Qatar maybe a year or two ago where Lewis sort of cut across George and spun himself out. And then after the race, he went on Twitter and said, "That was my fault, sorry, George."
Yeah.
And so I think that's the only time they've actually hit each other on track. They're very clean.
Anyway, we were kind of building up to the elephant in the room, aren't we?
Yes, of course. The time Alonso punted into the back of Zhou Guan Yu in turn 3.
Nope.
Oh, maybe.
No, because we actually finally got, after the second round of pit stops, and actually we can feel smug here because we kept on saying, oh look, that 5-6 second lead isn't enough. And Max Verstappen and Lando Norris pitted at the same time.
Yes.
With a 6 or 7 second lead, I'm going to say.
Yeah, it's about 7
for Max Verstappen, and they fluffed up a pit stop, which is really unusual. I mean,
for Red Bull, they've been like sub 2 seconds several times this year.
They are. So I actually saw a little video of them doing pit stops in the pitch black.
Yeah.
And they were 0.64 seconds slower.
So somehow the pressure of that situation was worse than actual pitch darkness.
Also, it was mechanical. You can change a wheel 500 times. You're not going to get the wheel nut to come off and the new wheel to go on and the wheel nut to tighten perfectly
every time. Well, that's why they practice so much.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's a wheel gun going wrong or if it's someone's hands just shaking and missing slightly. But it's inevitable. Every team has it every now and then.
Yeah, and it happened at the worst time because it came out with Lando Norris, I think, 1 point something behind.
Yeah, less than 2 seconds. Basically, his entire lead evaporated in the pit stop.
And then Lando was faster, let's be honest.
And he has been at moments throughout the year. But also, what's interesting is that Austria is one of Verstappen's favourite tracks.
Yeah.
Even back before the reg changes, he was winning there and he was beating Leclerc and Hamilton. It's sort of a home race for him and Red Bull, massive Orange Army support.
Yeah.
It's one of his favourite hunting grounds. So it's kind of not really an exceptional situation like Monaco or like Miami with the safety car.
Yeah.
It's one of the first times in one of his favourite tracks that he's been actually outpaced properly, and I think that's why he sort of reverted to type a bit under that sort of pressure because he wasn't used to it.
Yeah, and I also remember saying when I was watching it live as it happened, I said, this is what we've been waiting for. We've had 2 or 3 races where Lando Norris has been behind Max Verstappen. They've been 1 and 2. Lando Norris closes up to the back of Max, and then the checkered flag comes down.
Yeah.
And there's been races where he's won by 0.7 or half a second.
Or
2.1. And you almost hear you do hear the commentators saying, if we had another 10 or 15 laps, that would be a fight.
Yeah, between China and Spain, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those 7 races were Norris, Verstappen, 1-2.
Yeah, and I think definitely like Emilia-Romagna.
Oh yeah, he was closing.
Yeah.
And obviously there was
There's
Miami.
something actually about that McLaren in the closing stages with fresh rubber, light fuel load.
Well, yeah, low fuel, it's really quick, and I think that's why Norris has been getting on pole quite a bit as well.
Yeah,
probably.
Track rubbered in. It's like... And this time, like you say, I actually went back and looked up the history of Max Verstappen because we were like, he actually crashes into pretty much everybody.
Yeah, I remember back in 2018 he got actually kind of a lot of questions from the media basically saying, why do you crash into everyone? The first, I think, 6 races of that season he basically crashed in every single one.
Yeah.
I can remember in China he spun Vettel around at the hairpin. I can remember that quite clearly in my head. So
yeah, it's very... it actually reminds me a lot of Kimi Antonelli because Max Verstappen stayed in karting till he was 13 or 14. And then he kind of did... You get F1 and F2 and F3 are global championships.
Yeah.
But F4 is really fractured. And he actually won and broke records, Max Verstappen did, when he was 14, 15, 16.
Yeah.
In a lot of F4, like the European F4 and so on, and the special series and
I think,
one-off races. But he wasn't... Even then, he was massive amounts of podiums and wins, massive amounts of DNFs. And he was Christian Horner's project.
Yeah. he completed. He's much more like Kimi Räikkönen, I think. I don't know if that's what you meant.
Well, no, I mean like Antonelli, who's coming up. He hasn't actually got a huge amount of lower formula single-seater open-wheel experience.
All he really did was, if we look at his overall racing record, he did Florida Winter Series for 2 races. He did 1 season of FIA Formula 3, European Formula 3. The way I see it is F1 and F2 are global world championships. There is a global F3 championship now, but it used to be regional. So you had European, there's an Asian F3, a Middle Eastern F3, and then Formula 4 is national, I think. So you have you got British F4 and like Italian and stuff.
That's where Billy Munger came from.
Yeah, I think so. So he did European F3, which I think is quite a few others have done. He only came 3rd as well.
Yeah.
He got beaten out by Ocon and Stroll, I think. He did 1 Macau Grand Prix, 1 Zandvoort Masters, and then started racing in Formula 1.
Yeah.
He did, if you look, 12 plus 33 plus 2, that's 14, that's 47 single-seater races, and then went into Formula 1.
Yeah. So anyway, what actually happened in the race, I'm sure you've seen it by now.
Yes.
I actually went back and looked, coming up to that fateful corner, Norris had a look down the inside.
What, turn 1?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Max Verstappen moved over to cover the inside.
Yeah.
So then Lando went, you know what, I'm going around the outside. And I've actually seen the Sky Pad where they paused it at the braking point and went, there, from Max Verstappen's wheel to that white line is a car width. There's Norris in that car width.
Yep.
And then you watch and he just drifts out wide. He's not even trying to hit the apex at this point.
Was this turn 3 still?
Yeah, turn 3.
Yeah.
And obviously he then just bashed into... I mean, I think he bashed into Lando Norris, but I think to an extent, by this point, Lando Norris was getting utterly fed up with his jinking around under braking.
Which, that was a rule I thought they introduced because of Verstappen, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm actually going to hold my hand up to that. I always thought it was Schumacher.
Yeah, but I remember, I thought it was like 16, 17. He was a hard defender, by which he would just like move in the braking zone and just push people around. And they actually said, once you've picked a line, you have to commit to it.
So at that point where Norris looked at the inside, Max moved over to cover the inside. He should have stuck to that line. And instead he moved out to cover the outside as well.
Yeah, and there is... The thing is as well, it's a classic kind of consequences versus actions. Because he doesn't really do anything that drastic. He sort of just pushes slightly to the left. And if Norris had used the curb that was available and gone off the track slightly, which obviously is like, you could say he shouldn't have had to have done that, but if he had done that, there wouldn't have been any contact and there wouldn't have been a story, really.
Well, no, but you see, the other thing I noticed is a few laps before that happened, they actually got on the radio from GP, his engineer, spoke to Max Verstappen and said, just be aware, Lando Norris has had so many track violations, back to this subject.
Oh, yeah.
He's now on a black and white flag, meaning the next track violation, Lando Norris will lose 5 seconds.
So you think Norris didn't want to leave the track that much because he'd get a penalty and lose all the ground?
And I think Max knew
Max
that.
wanted to make him go off track, and they both were fed up to the point that neither of them yielded.
But also then maybe, I don't know if this is true, but I could see Max thinking so strategically that if I get him off track one more time, then I don't care if he goes past me, because if I can stick 4.5 seconds on his tail, I'll win the race.
Probably is thinking like that. He's one of those drivers who kind of has that sort of mental capacity in the car.
And then, then it suddenly becomes, I don't have to keep this guy behind me.
I just have to stay within 5 seconds.
And I've got the race win.
But I also noticed when they had crashed, Verstappen's wheel basically came off the car.
Yeah.
And Norris had a puncture or a
the carcass came off though.
Yeah, the carcass came off the hub.
Yeah.
Verstappen still wouldn't let him past.
No, they were still fighting.
They were still racing past like lapped cars who were probably thinking, what the hell's going on? Why are they going so slow and weird? I was kind of thinking that's kind of a bit dangerous, isn't it? To be like covering off attacks when you've got 3 wheels.
But then after a corner or two,
he did back off.
He backed off, and I was saying this to you yesterday.
Yeah.
Max, as we said, crashed a lot.
Yeah.
He's a lot more experienced, and he really nursed it back to the pits. And Lando Norris is not as experienced. I don't think he's had that many accidents.
No, not really. I mean, he's not had to limp back to the pits with punctures before.
And he really gunned it, and that, possibly, I don't know, I'm not a tyre engineer, but possibly I think that could have shredded the tyre and then led to the lower floor damage.
You could see it like whipping round and slamming into the floor, I think.
There's carbon fibre going everywhere.
Yeah. And a very similar thing happened to Leclerc a few years ago. I think 21, he tagged, I think it was Hulkenberg, and got a puncture. But it was at the end, so he went round again and he was like thrashing the car. And Martin Brundle said on the commentary he needs to stop doing that or he'll actually just DNF. He could nurse it round, hope for a safety car and get some fresh tyres on.
Yeah.
Keep going, but he basically ruined his race because he was annoyed.
You can get a bit impetuous.
Yeah.
Which is weird, actually, because we always say Max Verstappen is the one who's impetuous and aggressive, but...
Yeah, but I think he's got that kind of...
He's cold and calculating.
Yeah, I don't think he's sort of actually hot-headed and angry like someone like Magnussen could be.
No.
Or like, even like Vettel could get a bit like that, I think.
I saw a really excellent quote that said, when you're a racing driver, you've got to be absolutely ruthless and cold and calculating. And even if it's your teammate, you've got to shake them in your hand while you know you're holding a sharp knife behind your back with the other hand.
Yeah.
And guess who that was?
Senna?
Lewis Hamilton about Nico Rosberg.
Bloody hell.
Nice guy, Lewis Hamilton.
We saw how that ended, didn't we?
Well, yeah, because it's not quite win at all costs, but...
It pretty much was. I mean, towards the end of 2016, Hamilton was trying to back Rosberg into Vettel to get him to...
Yeah.
And I think Vettel actually wasn't overtaking Rosberg because he wanted to see another German champion. And that was like, if Rosberg was third, Hamilton first, Hamilton wins. If Rosberg is second, then he wins.
I can't believe that of Vettel. I think Vettel would want to be as high up as he can get.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's difficult because it's the end of the season. I think it was not a great year for Ferrari, so it's like, well, I'll take a podium, whatever. Yeah. It's hard to tell.
But yeah, in the race, again, this is something I've noticed all the multiple champions have, and it's really weird. They have that ability to almost manipulate luck. Because there was an accident. The steward said it was Max Verstappen's fault. He got a 10-second penalty.
Yeah.
They actually said afterwards that's the maximum penalty we can allocate in a race. So they knew it was serious.
They not do stop goes anymore?
Maybe not for that particular offence of forcing a drive or causing a collision.
Yeah, that's weird.
But after all of that, Max brought it home in 5th.
Yeah.
Which means his lead over Lando Norris has increased by 10 points.
Yeah.
So after all that drama and who was right, he won
out, basically.
Yeah, his strategy worked.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have said we need to look at this because there's no deterrent there. You know, his lead has increased. He's closer to being world champion. The 10 seconds made no difference because he was 26 ahead of Hulkenberg.
Let's see what the...
Something in that kind of order.
The result in the end, he finished... Yeah, wow, like 27 seconds ahead of... I don't know, what is that? 17 ahead of Hulkenberg.
Yeah, so it was about 26, 27 ahead.
Yeah.
And he was on brand new softs because obviously he had to come in for a fresh set.
Yeah, so he didn't even get the fastest lap.
They're probably scrubbed at this point in the weekend, but you know.
Yeah, they were soft and he was flying.
Yeah, and low fuel. And I mean, I think we've got to give a hat tip to George Russell at this point.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy to say, he inherited the win.
But you have to be fair, he fended off Piastri as well, actually.
Yeah, and he drove a solid, clean race. He didn't get tangled around anybody. He kept it in 3rd place, which is no mean feat.
He didn't get any track limits penalties, because if he'd got 5 seconds, he'd have gone back down to 3rd.
Yeah.
He was only 4.5 ahead of Sainz.
So he did everything he needed to do, and you know that's kind of luck favours people like that. Luck favours the prepared.
It's the classic. In order to finish first, you first have to finish.
Yeah.
So it's just that's almost what they race for. It's like a reminder that literally anything could happen.
Yeah.
Actually, I remember when I watch, sometimes I sit there and I'm like, man, if Verstappen just retired now, this would be an awesome podium. And then it actually happened, because it was kind of an awesome podium.
Yeah, for once it wasn't the Verstappen Norris podcast.
No, it was the Russell special guest host.
Yeah.
It's only Piastri's 4th podium in F1 as well.
Yeah, he's got the speed, but he lacks something. The kind of
I
luck
think,
almost.
again, that same kind of... Although he's picked it up recently, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely... Him and Perez have definitely improved a lot.
I think, yeah, well, Perez has improved from this sort of like slump where he was down in sort of 8th.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still think he's not good enough for that second seat, really.
No, he's not. And I mean, I've even heard Christian Horner talking and saying, we're fighting one car against two, basically.
Yeah.
Ferrari, McLaren and Mercedes are all fielding 2 drivers to his one.
And they're very evenly matched.
Yeah. Certainly McLaren are.
Yeah.
And if he's
and
not...
Mercedes, actually.
If he's not fighting off Lando Norris, he's fighting off Oscar Piastri.
Yeah.
And strategy-wise, they have a lot more to choose from.
Yeah, so Perez is sort of... I mean, he's getting stuck behind a Haas.
It's weird, because he's got a 1+1 deal, hasn't he? So...
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why. It's probably some internal Red Bull politics with like the Helmut Marko camp versus the...
Oh yeah,
Christian
Jos
Horner.
Verstappen's been kicking off again, hasn't he?
Yeah, he wanted to drive an old Red Bull at the
An old Red Bull, the 2012 championship winning Vettel Red Bull.
Okay, yeah, that one. I didn't know which one it was specifically. The RB8, I think.
Yeah.
For some, it was tied to like the Legends series.
Yeah, the Duo Legends kind of... I think it's a parade more than a race, isn't it?
Yeah, and they didn't let him. And then he basically said, "Oh, Horner doesn't want me in the car." And it's kind of like, well...
I mean, A, it was really weird, the messaging. And B, all we ever really heard was Jos Verstappen's account, which, not being mean to the guy, but if you get a situation like that and you're only hearing one side of it, you've got to kind of frown and scratch your chin and go,
Is this like legit?
I think it was like, it wasn't he didn't want him there, but he said, if he does race, we're not going to have any official Red Bull photographers there.
Huh.
And then there was some coded message about how you've got to be sure the brakes work before you go out, at which point you decided just not to bother. But I think Christian Horner's denied most of that.
I think it's just stirring the pot. There's probably not much actual substance to it. I think they're both just sort of winding each other up, really.
And I think it comes back to the Thailand-Austria split again.
Yeah, because I think Horner's got the backing of the Thai investors, and they're actually 51% of the board, so they've got priority.
And what's Dietrich's son called?
Oh, I don't remember. Mark
Yeah.
Mateschitz? And he's got...
49%. And
He's backing Jos and Marco. And
while we're talking gossip,
oh yeah, that's
somebody said to Max Verstappen, will you be driving for Red Bull next year in 2025?
Yes.
And he didn't give a yes or no answer.
Oh, what did he say?
I can't remember, but I always just remember the headline saying, I tried to dig into it, but yeah, he didn't actually just say yes or no.
That is weird. When he won his first championship, he said, "Can I stay here for 10 years?" And now it's looking like that might be a bit...
I mean, I think he's often said, I want to stay here, and to be fair, going back to the history of Max Verstappen,
yeah,
Christian Horner brought him in 2016, 2017?
2015. Well, 15 into the sport, 16 into Red Bull, yeah.
And actually, there's very few teams that have kept their lead driver for 7.5 years, coming up to 8 years.
I mean, obviously, Mercedes and Lewis.
But then they've just kind of got Russell in. I think they should have kept Bottas, keep Lewis happy.
They could bring Bottas back, actually.
Mm.
I think he's looking for a job, isn't he?
Mm.
That would be hilarious.
I mean, he was a brilliant wingman. Lewis was really happy with him.
Compared to what we've seen from Perez, like I said, Bottas never missed a Q3 in his entire time there.
Yeah.
Which is almost mind-boggling now.
And in a way, Russell is too fast to be a wingman.
Well, they're now sort of in a Sainz Leclerc situation where whoever's first on track is the lead driver.
Yeah. Whereas, like, Christian Horner has just put all his eggs in the Max Verstappen basket.
Yeah.
What else is going on? Somebody got a contract this...
Yeah, Behrman's with Haas next year officially.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
worst
just
kept
realised
secret.
he's done an FP1 with both Ferrari and Haas now, hasn't he?
Yeah, because I guess he's got to get a bit more integrated into the...
Haas top side.
I think he might have been with Haas for the FP1 sessions previously.
Oh, he's done the race in
He
Australia.
did the race in Jeddah.
Jeddah. Oh, yeah, Australia was when Sainz won with stitches in his stomach.
Yeah, which is still... That's kind of ridiculous that happened this season because it seems like so long ago now.
That's one of my favourite little seconds of video, is when he won.
Yeah.
Lando Norris, you watch closely, Lando Norris actually takes his elbow and helps him stand on the top step.
Yeah, because he must still be a bit sore.
And in pain. Although
Apparently, he said he could feel the difference in his stomach with all his organs moving due
Yeah.
to the G-force, which is just like...
Yeah.
Ugh. Of course, the joke is that the weight actually helped him win that race.
Yeah, weight reduction.
Every driver getting an appendectomy.
Yeah. I think we pretty much covered everything, haven't we?
Yeah, I think
I'm kind of
so.
hoping at the home Grand Prix we'll get Lando Norris versus Max Verstappen round 2.
Yeah. Hope we get 2021 round 2. Biff him into the barriers again, that'd be fun.
Yes.
I think... the incident in Austria was quite similar to that, because, again, in that first lap in 2021 in Britain, Verstappen is constantly like moving around and coming back and hard racing, and I think Lewis at that point in the season had just got fed up of him pushing him off the track, so he just didn't yield, and then that happened.
Yeah.
So I think it was as much Max's fault as it was Lewis's.
But there again, you get that same, luck kind of effect, where Lewis extended his lead.
Well, he easily could have ripped his front suspension off and gone into the barriers with him, and then it wouldn't have been a blame thing. It would have been look how tight it is.
Or he could have limped back for a nose cone and maybe got it back up to 7th or 8th, or...
Actually, I don't know. Lewis at home in a prime 21 Mercedes, he probably still would have won. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. He just
he just got
fell,
away with it.
The cards fell his way.
That season, they crashed into each other so many times.
Yeah.
Like at Monza, they one over the other. That was just weird.
Yeah. So yeah, we're looking forward to the British Grand Prix, definitely, especially if we can sit next to each other and gossip and watch it.
Yeah, much easier than like texting. Wonder what happened in FP2. This just happened.
Yeah, but
Norris fastest.
Yeah, I would actually like to see a race where the gap between Norris and Verstappen closes a bit.
Yeah,
He
you
just
think a
doesn't
Norris 1, Verstappen 2 or 3?
Yeah, I would actually like to see Lando Norris outscore Verstappen at least 1 or 2 races this season.
Yeah, because I think, again, this feels much more like 2019, 2020. It's obvious Verstappen's going to win, but he's not getting more than 2 races consecutively before someone interrupts him.
Yeah.
So it's a bit more kind of
I'm
balanced.
looking at your chart here. It's getting 3 or 4 in a row.
Those are sprints as well.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's a bit confusing. I don't know how to make it less.
Yeah.
But he's got like
2,
and then it was Sainz in Australia, then 1, 2, then it was Norris in Miami, then 1, then it was Leclerc, then 2, then it was Russell.
Yeah.
So he could get the next 2, and then we get like a Piastri win in Hungary or something.
Yeah, that reminds me, I did some maths.
Mm-hmm.
I like maths. I went through all the races we've had so far.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, the Red Bulls are the fastest car. What if in every race, the next fastest car that's not a Red Bull was Lando Norris?
Yeah.
So it was like a proper kind of 2021 or whatever kind of season.
An actual like close fight.
And I worked it all out and scratched my head, and it comes out that Lando Norris is 2 points behind Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
Which would have had everybody on the edge of their seats at this point in the season.
Yeah. It could still happen.
Yeah, he needs to learn how to get past him.
I think last year at Britain, Norris and Piastri were actually challenging him quite a bit at the start. They actually were like, this is a massive step forward. I've messed up a spreadsheet. Yeah. But I think maybe this year, maybe the McLaren's good here. Maybe it's a home crowd advantage for Norris, and maybe Hamilton and Russell as well.
I was going to say, we've got Norris, Hamilton and Russell. Is that it?
Yeah. For now, Behrman's on next year, so there'll be 4.
Yeah.
I think that's it for British drivers coming in next year, unless, I don't know, like Martin Brundle gets back in, like to the Haas or something. That'd be fun.
Brundle and Jet Button.
Oh, actually, yeah, Jenson Button I'd love to see back in a car.
So we've got 1 rookie lined up for next year already.
So far, yeah.
So who's gonna be standing up when the music ends?
What do you mean?
Well, like if 1 new person is coming in, there's only 20 seats.
Yeah, someone is now officially losing their seat. Probably Magnussen, just because it's the Haas.
Or Sargent.
So Hülkenberg's already jumped ship from the Haas. Sargent probably is gone anyway, but I think Magnussen could jump to Alfa Romeo, Audi / Sauber / Stake /
Kick F1.
What did they used to be? They were... No, they've always been Sauber, haven't they? That's their sort of...
Yeah. Peter Sauber founded them.
Yeah.
Also, I've seen I mean, as I said before, Jack Doohan has been paid to be Alpine's reserve driver.
But Alpine are not. Well, they've actually got an empty seat though because they got rid of Ocon.
Yeah.
So they'd be kind of stupid not to take Doohan in there alongside Gasly. Gasly's got a bit of experience under his belt now. He'd be a good mentor.
Although everybody's really worried that Ocon might join Haas because of all the drivers you want next to you and as a rookie.
It's Esteban Ocon, yeah.
It's not going to be pretty. Anyway, I think we need to wrap this up.
Yeah, pretty
I
good.
think we've got... I can't see the screen from here.
That's 40 minutes, pretty much dead.
Oh yeah, we're pretty good on time, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're always a bit quicker when we're actually in the same place.
Yeah, we're not having to there's less delay, so we're not talking over each other as much.
Yeah. Okay then. So I'm Graham Miller. I write lovely mystery novels under Graham H. Miller if you want to go and find them. If you found this on YouTube, which most of our listeners do at the moment, go and check out Official Tibby.
Yeah.
Which is Toby Miller's account on YouTube. And I think just left to say goodbye, and we'll see you in a couple of days for the roundup of the British Grand Prix.
Yeah, a couple of days, yeah. Bye.